Hi, my name is Angel. Welcome back to my channel. Currently, I am doing the Indie April readathon on my channel where I read only indie published books in the month of April. And I wanted to do a vlog showing off some of those indie books and talking about those indie authors. But I wasn't sure exactly what I wanted to structure it as because I wanted to kind of mood read and just choose what I want during the week. So I have decided that what I'm going to do is use a random emoji generator, and I am going to generate an emoji as you do, and based off of that emoji, that's how I'm going to choose my book. So it could be like an emoji that is similar to a cover element on one of these books. It could be something that is mentioned in the synopsis. It could be kind of like a general vibe. I don't really know exactly how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to randomize my emoji, and then I'm going to scroll through my Kindle, my Indie April TBR options, and see what I can find that fits with the emoji. I do have quite a few books that I really would like to prioritize this month, so if I can fit any of those in with any of these picks, I'm definitely going to do that. So let's go ahead and just get my first emoji. So this is just, I'm gonna focus it on here. It's just a website, a random emoji generator, and I'm just gonna click randomize. What is that? Okay. I checked the little box for unique so we can get like hopefully better options. So let's randomize it. How is that unique? So maybe I just have to choose something with a blue cover? Let me scroll through some of my options of books that I want to read, and then I will come back and let you guys know what I've decided. Okay, I think I have decided on my next read. I am going to be picking up The Limits of My World by Gregory Coles. This is the cover. I will put up the color version because it is very blue. I think the blue is like really the standout of this cover. This is, I think, like sci-fi, maybe sci-fi horror that I've kind of had my eye on for a while because it sounds really, really intriguing. So I'm really excited because I did want to read this for Indie April because, like I said, I've wanted to read it for a long time and I just never found the time. So now I can make time to read it and I'm very excited. So I will come back once I'm a good bit into the book and give you guys my first update. I am 20% of the way through my book now, and at first I was so fucking confused. I was like, I don't know what the hell is going on in this world right now, or like what's happening. Like, we got right into the book and we're just like being dumped with all of this like information and like all of these words and like concepts that I'm like, I don't know what any of this means. But I carried on with good faith and things got explained, and now I feel like I have a pretty good grasp on like what's happening and like what is really going on in the world that we are in this book. So we get right into the book with this character named Kanan, and then the other character that we're following is Tay. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it. It's T-E-I. So this is like a weird sci-fi world where we have these creatures that they're humans, but they're also not humans. This is where it's gonna get so confusing. I'm gonna try my best to explain this, but basically they are like, how do I explain this? These beings live in like an archive. It is called like Digiscape. Let me double check that. Anyways, so Digiscape is like, it kind of seems like a virtual reality type of world. So all of these creatures sleep in hydropods, I think is what they're called. So they're like in water, and then while they're like sleeping they go into Digiscape and they just kind of can manipulate the entire world. Like I said, it's kind of virtual reality, so they can create whatever they want to dream, and they can just like pass the time in Digiscape, and a lot of them do that. But their lives kind of have cycles. So when they first come out of the archive, they are newborns, and then after however long, like each season they have like a rebirth cycle. It's really difficult to explain. So we have like a group of however many newborns. Let's say there's like 50 newborns. And then we get to the season where they have their first rebirth and only 30 of them get to go through. For example, I don't know if these numbers are accurate, but just for example, so 30 of them are chosen to be like reborn, and then the other 20 have to go back to the archive. And then those 30 they like shed their skin and get new skin. They continue on as junior fledglings, I believe is what they're called. And then they have a second rebirth where a smaller group, let's say like 20 of them, go on to become senior fledglings. And basically the entire idea of this, everybody that is chosen to be reborn, that's a good thing. Everybody else goes back to the archive, so they are not dead, but they're not living either. They are just kind of floating in this virtual reality space, essentially. So the goal is when you are born and you are a fledgling, like you want to work on your skills and be the best possible at something, because at the very end they have like the final rebirth. So after you're a senior fledgling, I think only 10 of them are chosen to go into the final form, which is like the highest honor, and they get to go into career paths. So it's really, really interesting because that whole ceremony is like the previous holder of that career is retiring, so they are going to the archive, and then the senior fledgling gets put into that spot. And so like I said, it's very like what is the word? It's very difficult to get a spot, and that's kind of like they work their whole lives to be the best at what they do so that they can go into their final form and not be stuck in the archive. So that's kind of confusing. Also, the thing when they are being like reborn or whatever, they get skin. So their natural bodies that they have like in the archive, they are called, they refer to it as the underflesh. And then when they are born as fledglings, they get skin and they become human, essentially. It's a very strange but very fascinating concept, and I'm probably not explaining it very well, but our main character, Kanan, that we're following, everybody thinks that she is going to be able to get into this final form. She is a senior fledgling when the book starts, and she is really, really good at like what she does. And so they are calling the 10 slots for the people that are going to move on to the final form, and she is like really anxious and hoping that it's her because she does not want to go into the archive. But they get through all 10 and they do not call her name. And then we are also reading for the perspective of Tay, who is Kanan's friend in this world. And Tay is very much the opposite, like believes that he has absolutely zero chance of like getting through because he's not really good at anything that he does. And he just has that mentality of like he's just not good enough. But then they announce at this ceremony that they are opening up an 11th spot for a new career that has never been needed before. So this is like a really, really big thing. Like they're essentially making history because they haven't had this career in use for like hundreds of years. And they name Tay as an interpreter. So things flipped for, you know, this pair of friends. Like they thought Kanan was going to get into the final form and Tay was going to go into the archive, and now it's the opposite way. So they could still see each other. It's just that if Kanan is in the archive, Tay would have to come into the digiscape every now and then they could like see each other in the VR. I'm just gonna call it like virtual reality because that's what it feels like. They could see each other in that world, but Kanan is not actually living because she's in the archive. Something I will say right off the bat is that the whole premise is really reminding me of Logan's Run, because if you guys know like that movie, that is like a sci-fi world where when you turn 30 you are reborn, aka they kill you, but of course they don't tell people like you die. They treat it as like this big ceremony that you are ascending and you are being reborn. and they have people that are assigned to stopping runners. So people, when they get to their 30th birthday, they are trying to run because they don't want to be reborn, or you know, maybe they're like conspiracy theorists and they think that there's something else going on. And this is kind of giving the same idea of that, because we learn about somebody in the past who was going to be archived that tried to escape, and was basically made as a lesson to everybody, like, don't try to escape or else this will be your fate as well. So whenever they have people that are acting out, they can do what's called like premature archiving, and taking that person and putting them into the archive before they would naturally be due to. But there is also the option for deletion, which we get a little bit of the history of that there's only been 3 people that have been deleted because their crime was so great. So that's like the general background. Hopefully I explained that well, and hopefully it makes sense. But Kanan, finding out that she is going to go into the archive, immediately is like, I need to get out, and she takes her chances to try to escape. And she does make it out, but she is still like in the world. So the universe that they live in is very, very small. The book starts off with Kanan saying that she can run around the entire universe in like 22 minutes, because that's how small the area that these creatures, these beings truly live in. And there is this big legend of an alien race, and that was one of the deletions that happened, is somebody who found out about this alien race and was spreading like information about it got deleted, because it was leading to like widespread panic and hysteria within these people, this group of people, because they're learning that there's something else out there aside from them. So now in the story we are following Kanan as she's like still stuck in the universe, but she's being harbored by somebody else who is trying to assist her with this escape plan and show her that there's more to the world than the universe that they've come to know. And I think it's so fascinating so far. Like, I have been highlighting literally so much stuff because the dialogue and some of the quotes are just fantastic. I think this is definitely a book that's going to be very psychological, and it's going to have a lot to say about humanity, and language, and what it means to be a human, and society in general. And I just think it's so interesting so far. That was definitely a long update, but I wanted to do it really quickly while like everything's fresh in my mind of like, okay, I need to explain the plot of this in the best way possible, because it was very confusing at first. So with all of that being said, I am going to keep reading, and I will see you guys later. I'm 85% of the way through the book now, and I'm really enjoying it. Like, this book is really good. First of all, it's just such an interesting and unique concept. Like, it's just a fascinating book. I feel like that's the best way to describe the book in one word, is just absolutely fascinating. I'm not going to say too much more about the plot because I feel like I already explained a lot, and first of all, it's kind of confusing to keep up with it, and obviously I don't want to give too much away, but we are slowly getting more information, and like things are making more and more sense the deeper into the book that we get. We are following our 2 main characters that I described to you guys, as they are both in very different situations, but they are both learning new information, and they are learning very similar information to one another while being into very different situations, and they are learning more about the world around them and the people around them, and I think it's absolutely fascinating. This book has a lot to do with language. It is about culture, it is about history, it is about what is lost through history as knowledge is passed down, and I just think it's so good. Like I mentioned last night, I'm highlighting so much. There are so many good quotes in here and so many interesting discussions about all of those topics that I just mentioned. One quote that I really liked when they were talking about like history, Tay, our main character, is learning a lot of new things, obviously, and the person telling him this stuff says, "Do not be too sure that you know the whole shape of human history." And Tay goes, I was the best historian in like my class. Like, what do you mean? And the person talking to him is describing this, and they say, the best at receiving the story you were told. I have no doubt about that. But history telling always turns our attention towards certain details and ignores others. Which moments matter, which do not. Whose memories will be paraded before the fledglings, which is the characters in the book, and whose memories can be erased. These questions are decided by those with power to decide them. Studying history as you've done, it simply means learning the story someone wanted you to hear. And I just thought that was interesting and like a really good summary for like, I don't know, learning history. But then there's also discussion about like what is the point? The character goes on to ask after that. It's like, okay, like if some of these stories are not true, or like maybe it's altered what we're learning, like what is the point of learning any of it to begin with? And I don't know, there's just a lot of really, really interesting discussions. This book is, I feel like, not like anything I've read before. It's very, very unique in that I've never read anything that discusses language and history so deeply while being like a science fiction book. It is entirely different than what I expected. I just thought it was going to be like a sci-fi book with like aliens and some weird stuff going on, but it is so much more like philosophical and like focused on human nature and humanity, and I just think it's so interesting. Like I said, very, very fascinating. I'm going to bed though, so I know I'm gonna finish this book tomorrow, so I wanted to get my emoji now so I can start thinking of what I want to start after this one. I have 3 audiobooks checked out on Libby that are indie published books, so I would really like to make the emoji fit for one of those books so that I can read it. But let me pull this up. Let me focus you in. What is that? Oh, it's a clock. Surely I can find something that has to do with a clock or time. Let me see if any of the audiobooks that I checked out have to do with time. Let's do a quick scroll through the Kindle. I mean, I'm definitely going to find something that has to do with time. It's a different night. It's the same spot. It's the same pajama t-shirt. I'm here to let you guys know that I finished my book and I really, really enjoyed it. I don't have a lot more to say that I haven't already told you guys, because like I said, I don't want to say too much about the book because it was just so different from what I expected, but in like a good way. I'm not sure what I want to rate it yet. Probably 4 or maybe even 4.5 stars, because I really liked the way that it ended and it wrapped up, and I liked the story in general, and the writing I thought was really, really good as well. But I also wanted to update you guys because I was searching around for an indie book that I had already on my TBR that had something, you know, the emoji was a clock, so like something that has to do with time or clock, or like even anything remotely related, like hours and like minutes. There was one book that I was going to pick up which I felt like barely fit the whole like idea of time, and so I wasn't really happy with choosing it in the first place, but I just couldn't find anything better. Like I said, I wanted it to be indie and then on my TBR more than anything, because I don't really want to read things that aren't on my TBR, and I just couldn't find anything. And then like I said, the one thing that barely fit the prompt that I was gonna go with, I realized is not actually on Kindle Unlimited. It's like $5 to buy, and I don't feel like spending money right now. So what we're gonna do is get a new emoji and we're gonna go from there. So let me bring you all in. Here we are. Random emoji generator. Paw prints. So this could be like anything animal related. So the first one that pops up is Dungeon Crawler Carl. So I think it counts for Indie April because it was originally indie published. Now I think it's been republished traditionally, but I'm gonna say it counts because I want to read it anyways. And I think that there is a cat involved in this book. And like I said, I do want to read it anyways, so that's an option. I have this one called Sewer Rat that I got from a Stuff Your Kindle day. And rats have paws. could do World of Wonders, which is a non-fiction, and that has to do with like wildlife and animals. So I feel like paw prints could work there as well. I'm not sure yet, but I definitely have options for this one. So I will for sure be starting something tomorrow, and I will come back and let you guys know what that is once I get a little bit of the ways into it. Are you gonna stand there? Hello, change of scenery. As you can tell, we are outdoors today. I do leave my house. We are camping right now, which will be a totally separate vlog if anybody wants to see our camping trip to Rainbow Springs. Pardon my boyfriend, I don't know what he's doing. But the second book, as I did mention to you guys that I decided to read, is Dungeon Crawler Carl. Now, let's be upfront about this. Obviously, like, we're staying here for 2 nights, and then we are going to Orlando and we're going to a concert. So I don't know how much reading I will realistically be doing the next couple of days, but let's update about the book. So I'm 14% through right now, and I'm hooked. I was hooked like 10 pages in because the premise of this is so freaking fascinating. Like, I know I'm barely into this book, but I would say it's worth the hype. I'm sure you guys have seen this one online recently. So we are following this guy at the beginning of the book where like the apocalypse kind of happens, and it's like an alien invasion type thing, and it kind of reminded me of like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, because these aliens come to Earth and they were like, what's up Earth, you guys didn't respond to our message, so we've chosen your planet for mining, and we're gonna take over and mine all your resources. And then seconds after that, like, all of the buildings on Earth just like collapse, and they describe it as like anybody that was inside, even like something like a vehicle, they die. Like, nobody survives the apocalypse unless they're outside. And our main character happened to be outside because he was chasing his cat who jumped out the window, and it's like freezing cold weather, and he's wearing like boxers and a t-shirt and like a jacket because like he just ran out the door real quick, you know, that type of vibe. And then all the buildings collapse, so he is starting to get frostbite, and he's got this freaking cat that's like fighting him, and this message comes up from the aliens, and it basically says that all of the surviving humans on Earth, they can either take their chances on the surface and like try to find resources and like survive off the land, or they can go into one of the openings. So there's 150,000 openings all over the Earth where these people can enter, and they are entering the dungeon if they do that. Once they are in the dungeon, they cannot leave, and the goal is to get to level 18, which is the lowest level, and whoever does that then gains back, like, they gain control over the planet, basically. So Carl, who is our main character, doesn't really have a choice, so he enters the dungeon, and from there it's just been like so fun to follow, because it's very much like a video game where he like enters in the dungeon and he gets like all these achievements. One of them is called Crazy Cat Lady, and he gets that achievement for entering the dungeon with a cat. And then he goes to like the guild and he does a tutorial, and he meets like the guild master there, and he's getting all of this information about what the game is. And then we found out that it's kind of like an alien reality TV show, so there's aliens all over the universe that are tuning into this show and watching these humans try to fight. I don't know, it's just very, very interesting. The writing definitely has like a comical feel to it, like it's funny at times, but it's definitely going to be like a high like action sci-fi type of vibe, and like I said, definitely like that video game vibe. So if you like things like Ready Player One, or even if you're a fan of like, I feel like any video games and like Dungeons and Dragons, this is definitely a book that will match that vibe. So safe to say, I'm really enjoying it. I don't know how much I will be reading the next few days, like I mentioned, but change of scenery for this update. I'm not sure when I will talk to you guys next. I apologize if you can hear the washer running in the background. I'm about 50% of the way through Dungeon Crawler Carl now, and yes, by the way, we're back home. We're not camping anymore. Today was my first day back at work, and was interesting. I was like, I don't want to be awake right now, I want to be sleeping. I want to be out in nature. I want to be in a tent right now, but that's not where I am. Anyways, I'm about 50% of the way through this. I don't have too much more to say. I am still really, really enjoying it, but I just wanted to talk for a minute about it. So I know this is the first book in a multiple book series, and so far in the book they are still on level 1 of this dungeon, and it has me really curious of like how far they're gonna get in this book. They are approaching that time where they're going to descend to level 2, so I don't know if they're going to get much further than that in this book, or if the later levels come in the later books, but I'm very, very curious where we're going to end off on this one. The cat, Princess Donut, does talk now, which makes sense. It happened pretty early on, and I kind of assumed it was going to happen anyways, because how do you have a cat as like the main character in this setting and in this book without like being able to hear it talk? So she's able to talk now. She has her own personality, and it's very like stereotypical how you would expect a cat to act. So that's been really, really fun to follow. But so far, like I said, they're still on level 1, and they're getting to that point where they're going to go down the stairs, because I think they have like 40 hours left until the level collapses and they have to move down. They are encountering many different people, different humans from Earth that are still trying to survive down there, but also different creatures. And then the TV show aspect of it has come in. There has been, I think, 2 episodes, and there's about to be a 3rd episode, and those are aired in the safe zones for the players to watch as well. So obviously a big thing with that TV show, because they have millions of people down there, they want to do something big to get them on the TV show, because that's how you get sponsors, and it's supposed to be better for you. It's kind of giving like the Hunger Games. You guys get the vibe. So I'm still really enjoying it, although there is one thing that I will say about it, and I can understand why people don't like it for this reason, but it definitely is becoming a little bit repetitive at times, because like I said, they're still on level 1. They haven't really made much progress. It's just kind of them like wandering around, and then they encounter some enemies they have to fight off, they barely escape, then they're wandering around some more, and then they encounter some enemies and they have to do the same thing again. It's been kind of fun though, because they've fought 2 bosses so far, and there are different levels for each of the bosses. So they have fought like the lowest level ones, and it has gotten pretty intense at some points. But it's just kind of like the same thing happening over and over again for a good chunk of the story. So I could definitely understand people that don't like it for that reason. Something else too that I could see, oh my god, did you see me just hit myself in the face? Something else that I could see people criticizing this book for is like, it might be a little bit over the top with some of the comedy and like some of the quirky aspects. Like the thing that this book really has going for it is that it's relatable with like the whole video game setting and type of storyline, but then also the comedic like writing, and like, not to sound like a magazine cover, but it's like laugh out loud funny at some points, and I could see that for certain readers being like a little bit much, because there are some points where I'm like, it's kind of a little bit much, like a little over the top quirky, but I'm still really liking it. Let's be real, is this the best, most well-written thing ever? No, but it's not bad. It's just like, it's not bad writing, it's just very, very simplistic in a lot of ways, which I think is perfectly fine. All in all, I am still really enjoying it, which I'm kind of surprised by, but after really liking this so far, and then really, really loving Moonbound by Robin Sloan last year, I'm starting to think maybe like sci-fi, fantasy, adventure type stories might be the thing for me. So if you have any recommendations, definitely let me know. However, for right now, I'm going to keep reading this. My goal is to finish it tomorrow, and then pick another emoji, pick another book. Sorry if you can hear my boyfriend talking in the background. I am very, very tempted to just pick the next emoji now, and the only reason I say that is because I know I'm starting a new audiobook tomorrow, so I'm like, is it kind of cheating to pick an emoji now and then see if I can make it fit with what I already know I'm going to be starting tomorrow? But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to finish this and then pick the next one, as the challenge should be done. Hello everybody, it is 10 p.m. I have just finished Dungeon Crawler Carl, but you guys are gonna have to wait a little bit before you hear my thoughts about this one, because right now we are just here to pick the emoji before I go to bed, so that way I know what book I am starting in the morning. So As always, I'm gonna bring you in real close and we're gonna see what emoji we get. This will probably be the last book for this vlog because I am running behind with it just because like our camping trip and everything. But I want to feel like I want to at least read 3 books because I feel like that's a good number for a reading vlog. But this has been fun. I would definitely do it again in the future because I like want to go for longer, but I just feasibly cannot at the moment. Anyways, here we are, a random emoji generator. We're just gonna hit randomize. No, I can't find a book with that. Stop. What is that? I feel like oh, hello, I almost dropped this. I feel like I should be able to find something that has to do with a horse. What is with these like animal ones? I was thinking for the horse I could do Powerless by Elsie Silver because I've read one book in the Chestnut Springs series and that is one that I do want to read. And I thought that they were all like cowboy romances, but they're not. The main character in here is a hockey player and then the female main character is a ballerina. So that has nothing to do with horses. You guys, I'm gonna cheat. We're gonna pick another emoji, okay? Back again. Goodbye, horse. This is actually so much harder than I thought it would be. I think the problem is that like I want to read right now, I want to read indie published books and then I want to read books that are already on my TBR or on my radar. Like I don't want to pick up totally random books, and I'm sorry if that's irritating to anybody that I'm not technically like following the challenge, but like why would I want to pick up something that's not on my TBR? Like that's what I should be prioritizing, right? Okay, I have to be honest with you guys. I just sat here for a very long time trying to find a book that I want to read that has to do with a boat, and I cannot find a single thing. I had a few options that had to do with like water. I was thinking of Caw Lake by Ethan Richards, Lovely Dark and Deep by Meg Stockton, also Along the River of Flesh, On a Clear Day You Can See Block Island, The Tides of Darkness. I don't know what the first one is called, but that series by Andrew Van Wey, because they kind of have to do with like the water and islands. And from what I could find, for every single one of those, there is not a boat that is involved at all. So because of that, we're gonna pick another emoji. This is so difficult. I refreshed the page, so hopefully we'll get something better. You'll see that they're trolling me. I just realized I wasn't recording, but I just got this emoji. So it's like the film reel type of thing. Maybe I can find something that has to do with a movie or a cursed film. Actually, now that I say that, there is something that is popping up right on the front page of my Kindle that I think has to do with the movie. That is Night Shoot by David Sodergren, which is about people that are making a movie. So my life just got a lot easier. I'm gonna read this. It's a couple of days later. I have just woken up from a nap and I'm ready to update you guys. First things first, we need to talk about Dungeon Crawler Carl because, as I mentioned, I did finish that. So I think for an official rating, I have landed on 4.5 stars. It felt better than a 4, but it didn't quite feel like a 5 because there were a few things that maybe were taking me a little bit out of the reading. I enjoyed like most of it, and it was definitely like those last 3 hours maybe that I was reading, like I was locked in. I had my little Kindle clicker, I was all bundled up. I was like, I feel like I'm watching a movie right now. Like I am so into this story, and it's just very like easy to digest and easy to consume everything that's going on, and it's really, really fun. I know I've explained the general premise to you guys a lot and I've told you a lot about it, but it doesn't stay like silly and fun throughout the whole thing. Like there's more to it than that. It's actually very political, which I haven't talked about a lot mainly because it's kind of difficult to comprehend and understand, at least right now in the series, because it's obviously like politics of like this alien world and the people that are putting on the show and the controversy around that, and then the people that are above them, and like just all of these alien government hierarchies, which is still a little bit confusing. Like I said, we're definitely still getting more information the further we got into the book and the further that we will get into the series. So I haven't said a lot about that because I can't really explain anything about it right now. Obviously, we are just on the same level of knowledge as Carl himself is as a character, where of course he's in this situation, he still doesn't know what the hell is going on, and he's not going to comprehend and understand all of the politics just yet, and more will come out the deeper we go into the story. But there were a lot of like more serious topics going on in the background, even though it is kind of lighthearted and funny and just kind of like this action sci-fi sort of book up front. There is a lot happening deeper into the story, which I really liked. It's definitely a book that I've still thought about a lot since finishing it, and just my enjoyment towards it was really high, and I'm very excited to continue the series. The book definitely ends on a good spot where it is very open to continue. Obviously we have so much more of the story to get to from the point where we end book number 1, and I'm very excited to continue the series eventually. I don't know when that will be, but I am really hoping to pick up the second book soon, but I feel like I always say that, but I just get distracted with everything else that I want to read, so we'll see when that happens. But to give you guys an update on the final book, I've started Night Shoot by David Sodergren. You guys already know that I love David Sodergren, so I'm gonna love anything that he writes. I am 30% through this book right now, and the one big complaint that I've seen from other readers and reviewers about this book is that it is a very slow to start one, where the action doesn't really pick up and happen until like 100+ pages into the book. So right now I'm on page 66, and it definitely does have that slower start, but I'm still really enjoying it because it's really like setting the scene and setting like just the story and the background for it. So we are specifically following our main character, whose name is Elspeth. I think that's how you say it. It's kind of a weird name, but we meet her in the beginning with her girlfriend, and her girlfriend calls her Ellie, so if that's easier, I might just use Ellie when I'm talking about her. But she is in college and she is working in film, and she is going to one of her like projects for class in her degree. I think this is the last like big film that they have to make for this class, and the guy who is writing and directing it is kind of an asshole, and it's this really shitty horror movie where the director, like I said, his name is Robert, and he's kind of an asshole, but he's definitely one of those guys that's like, I want nudity and I want blood, and I don't really care if anything else in the story makes sense. So he kind of sucks, and he treats everybody like shit, but it's just those shitty movie vibes. But they are filming at Robert's relative's mansion called Crawford Manor, and it is this huge estate like on a cliff by the ocean, and it's just been described very picturesque, very atmospheric. It's kind of giving like those classic gothic haunted house story vibes. It definitely seems like the perfect spot to film a movie like this. So we have just gotten through, they have the mansion for one day, and they were supposed to just crank out every single scene that they needed there, but they have ran into some issues with some of the crew, with Robert the director being an asshole to the lead actress, etc. So where I'm at right now is that their day of filming has wrapped and they are getting ready to leave. I guess this was an agreement from the very beginning, is that they could have one day there and they had to be out by 8 p.m. because that is when the owner himself also leaves, and he, I guess, sleeps somewhere else and then comes back to the house during the day, and nobody really knows why, but I'm sure we're gonna get there later on. But yeah, we haven't seen any horror yet. It's just been a lot of setup, getting to know the characters and the group dynamics, and I feel like this is a pretty common thing with a lot of David Sodergren novels, is that most of the time pretty much all of the characters kind of suck, and that's kind of the point because they're gonna die anyways. So I'm excited for it to pick up, and I'm excited for it to get gory and bloody and over the top because I know it will get there, but I'm being patient because I have heard, as mentioned, that it is a slower start. I tried to do like the cutesy little low bun. How do we feel about it? Also, I just realized, I think for like every single clip in this video, I forgot to put the microphone on the camera, so sorry about that. Anyways, I am now done. with the David Sodergren book, Night Shoot. It's actually like midnight right now. I finished it a while ago, but I just never sat down to do the update, and now I'm editing this video, so what better time to talk than right now. So I really liked the book. I do agree with the criticism that it is a very, very slow start, but once it gets into the action, it was so fun, because things went a little bit off the rails. This was definitely like a slasher type of book, but then there was also sort of this like mystery element to it in a way. Like it does something unexpected. It's not just like a typical slasher, but I do think it's really fun that David Sodergren definitely like played into the slasher tropes. Like he himself even says in the author's note at the end that he's like, you just have to embrace the trash, and slashers are known for being like trashy and over the top, and of course very focused on like nudity and sex, but the best slashers are the ones that lean into the trash and all of the tropes, and that was definitely what he was trying to do with his book and with the characters in it. Like that definitely came through, where like I said, every character was just kind of a piece of shit except your main character, who's a lesbian that we're rooting for, right? But then yeah, an unexpected element comes into play. I did write down a couple of movies that it reminded me of while I was reading, that I feel like if you like these, then you'll like this book. The first one that came to mind was Castle Freak, which I don't know if anybody's even seen that movie. Shout out to my sister Tiffany if you're watching this. But anyways, that's a very odd movie. Would I recommend it? Probably not, but if you've happened to seen it, you might like this book. Also, Barbarian, which is probably one of my favorite like more modern horror movies, because that one is like, what the fuck. And also at some parts The Descent, not really with like the plot or anything, but like more the visualization of the movie and like of the situation that the characters are in and the fear that they are experiencing. I feel like just that came through, that same feeling and same vibe came through while I was reading certain scenes in this book. So if you like any of those or anything with a similar vibe to any of those movies, then I think you should pick this book up. I think this was a little bit more like gory and bloody and explicit than his other novels as well. I mean, he's always kind of like towed the line, I feel like, between just really crazy graphic horror and like actually extreme horror. I think some of his stuff definitely could be classified more as extreme horror, and I think this one, it definitely leans that way a little bit more. Like if you enjoyed the horror but that was too much gore for you, then I don't think this would be the right one for you as well, because I feel like it does go a little bit more. It's like a little bit of a step up from his other books. Overall, I enjoyed it. I think maybe I would give it a 4. I think if it just stayed kind of like a basic slasher throughout, I'd probably give it like a 3 or a 3.5, but because there was that other element that I thought was really, really interesting, TBH, I wish it went a little bit deeper into that. But I still really liked it. So I think this will be fun because obviously David Sodergren is an author that I talk about a lot on here and I've read a lot from. So I want to do just a quick little like ranking of like my personal favorites by David Sodergren based off of what I read. So of course, number 1 in the tier is going to be The Horror. That is one of my favorite horror books ever. It's freaking fantastic, and if you still have not read it, please go and do that. After that would be the other book that I gave a 5-star by him, which was Maggie's Grave, because that one was really, really fun, and there are still scenes in that that are very, very like vivid in my mind to this day. And then I think, in 3rd place, I'd probably put The Forgotten Island, which is kind of funny because that's just like the order of popularity, but as far as enjoyment, yes, Forgotten Island was nasty. Then in my 4th spot, I'm thinking, do I put Night Shoot or do I put Rotten Tommy? Because Rotten Tommy was very close to being 5 stars for me. I just didn't really love the ending of it. I think I would put Rotten Tommy in my 4th spot and then Night Shoot right after that. And then the lowest one on the tier so far for me is And by God's Hand You Shall Die, because I still loved the writing and the gore and like all of that, but I didn't feel so connected to the actual plot and the story with that one. But that was still like 3.5 stars, I think, so it's still pretty good. Anyways, if anybody cared about my thoughts towards David Sodergren's books. Okay, the AC is kicking back on, which means we are coming to the end of quiet time where I can actually film, but that is also the end of this video, so it's okay if the audio sucks because you're probably clicking away anyways. But thank you guys so much for watching. This was really fun. I think I would definitely do it again in the future. I really want to when I have more time and maybe I can read more books for it. And I think I'm also going to more personally curate like an emoji wheel. I was going to do that for this video, but then to be honest I got lazy and I didn't feel like doing that, so I just used the random website instead. But I think if I could look at a TBR and choose emojis that correlate to a lot of the books and then put those on a specific wheel, I think the book would, or the video would go a lot better, because I wouldn't have such trouble finding an emoji that I can actually match a book to. With all that being said, thank you guys so much for watching, and hopefully I will see you next time.